Scrapbooks are strange little things. They don't try to be books and they don't quite pretend to be diaries. They are fragments, pieces of life glued and taped, pressed into pages that aren't meant to tell a whole story. Just enough to remind of who you were once. Welcome to the Lost and Found Chronicles, a podcast where we talk about things, memories, people that we lose on the way, and in an interesting way, they come back into our lives. And in today's episode, we will talk about two beautiful human beings who are from two different generations, and they are trying to find something and some answers, and it starts with a scrapbook. Michael's scrapbook. He had made it in high school. Every page filled with the ticket stub from the county fairs, handwritten jokes, snapshots from disposal cameras. It wasn't neat or polished, but that was never the point. It was messy. It was real. A collection of proof that friendship was once the center of his world. Years later, during a rushed move across the town, it vanished. At first, Michael told himself it was just a paper, just glue and photographs. But when he opened the last box in his new home and realized it was gone, it felt like losing a piece of his own memory, as though a whole version of himself, the boy who laughed until his ribs ached, the teenager who believed friendship could last forever and has been erased and is gone now. But sometimes what we lose doesn't stay gone. Sometimes it waits for the right hands to find them. By the time Michael was 47, the scrapbook was more of a memory than a loss. His life had been filled with other things: career, bills, family, responsibility, just life. But sometime, in quite few moments, he thought back to it. He remembered cutting out concert tickets with blunt scissors, writing small captions under photos. Don't tell the coach, we skipped the practice. These kind. Or the night we promised we would never forget each other. He smiles while remembering the small details. Back then, his friends weren't just names in a contact list. They were the afternoons spent on the cracked baseball courts, late nights whispering secrets on porches, the silence of sitting by the lake and knowing nothing needed to be said. And then adulthood arrived. One by one, those friends became Christmas cards, signatures, then occasional birthday text, and finally, silence. Scrapbook had been his anchor, proof of a time when connection did not need any effort. It just happened. When he lost it, he felt like he had lost the evidence that those friendships had even existed. While Michael was living his quiet, middle-aged routines, across the town, another story was beginning to form. Her name was Lena. She was 17, a high school junior, caught in that uncertain space between childhood and adulthood. On paper, Lena's life looked beautiful and full. Hundreds of friends on social media, notifications buzzing all day long, group chat, streaks, tagged photographs, but none of it reaches her when the loneliness crept in. She wanted friends who did not just double tap on her post, but the ones who would sit with her at lunch when the world felt heavy around her, and the friends who would not just send emojis, but who would notice when she was quiet and low. And most nights, staring at the endless scroll on her phone, she felt more invisible than ever. It was her parents who dragged her to the old church basement for a Sunday church sale. Lena went reluctantly, trailing behind, scrolling, and as she walked between dusty tables, stacked between secondary books and boxes of crockery, she saw it. Wedged between a stack of cookbooks and boxes of board games, there it was, a scrapbook. Its cover was worn, corners were taped, and the words "property of Michael" written in faded marker caught her attention. She opened it cautiously, and the world inside felt like stepping into a life she had never known. Handwritten notes passed in the class, doodles in the margins, grainy photographs of kids at dances and football games. Their faces weren't polished for a feed. They were in the mid-laugh, mid-breath, caught in the realness of being alive together. Lena stood there for a long time, flipping pages after pages. It did not feel like for hers to hold, but something about it gripped her. She did not know it yet, but this scrapbook, Michael's scrapbook, would become her guide. Not just a record of the past, but a blueprint for the kind of friendship she was longing for. Lena bought it and carried the scrapbook home. She studied it at night, and without realizing, she kept it going till late night, flipping through pages like a guide for a world she had never lived in. Guess what? She did not even touch her phone, and no one missed her. She was mesmerized by the scrapbook. These people hadn't texted each other. They would pass folded notes in the class. Their posts were Polaroids glued into paper. Their inside jokes weren't hashtag. They were scribbled doodles only they could understand. Something about that world made her ache, but in a good way. And slowly, something shifted in Lena. She began to experiment. She invited two of her classmates to hang out at her home. with one rule: no phones allowed. It was awkward at first, silence stretching too long. But then one of them drew a silly cartoon on a napkin and the ice broke. She started the trend in school too by writing little notes to friends, leaving them in the locker. She sketched doodles, invented inside jokes. It wasn't instant, it wasn't easy, but slowly she felt the beginning of what the scrapbook had shown her. Real friendships are clumsy. They are imperfect, but they are alive. The scrapbook was teaching her page by page. That night, Lena started her own scrapbook. Page 1 was a napkin tabbed with care. Under it, she wrote, "Maybe this is how it starts." Meanwhile, our Michael was still missing his scrapbook. One day, while spring cleaning, he found something unexpected. An envelope tucked it deep inside an old folder. Inside were few photocopies of scrapbook pages, the one which his friend Erica had made him years ago. He stared at the faded copies. His own handwriting stared back to him. And suddenly the years did not feel so far away. He searched for an email, for an address in his old telephone directory, then a phone number, then another. It started small, a message, then a coffee with John, who still lives nearby, but never got a chance to catch up. They laughed nervously at first, but within minutes, the old rhythm returned. A week later, he reconnected with Erica too, and then another friend. They began to swap stories, share photographs, remember things none of them had realized they have forgotten. And then, naturally, they began a new project, a shared scrapbook, digital this time, but also in print. I guess a hybrid of old and new, filled with grainy photographs from the past and snapshots of them today laughing together again. Two people, two different lives. Lena, 17, shyly writing in the first page of her own scrapbook. This one filled with the beginnings of real friendships. Imperfect, messy, and real. Michael, 47, laughing with friends who teased him with the same way they had decades earlier. Surprised at how easy it felt to slip back into the belonging. They never knew about each other, but the scrapbook, once lost, had become a teacher for both of them. It was proof that friendship doesn't vanish. It only waits to be remembered or relearned. Friendship isn't measured in the followers or in the number of pages you fill. It's in the laughter that makes no sense to anyone else. It's in the awkward beginnings that grow into belongings. It's in the people who leave traces on your life, even after time scatters you apart. Lena learned she did not need hundreds of connections. She needed a few, built slowly, lived fully. Michael learned that even decades later, some bonds can still be found, dusted off, and given new life. And together, though they never met, they remind us of this. Scrapbook was never really lost. It was waiting to be returned, but to be lived again in different hands, in different ways. That's it for today's episode. Hope you enjoyed this episode, and thank you for listening till the end. If you like this episode, please like, subscribe, and share with your family and friends. And share your stories with me at lostnfoundchronicles@gmail.com, or find me on Instagram at Prelicious. If you have a story, and if you have lost any connection and maybe found it again or not, I would really love to hear it from you. Do send me your stories. And I'm Pri, your storyteller, your listener, and your fellow collector of almost forgotten. Until next time, pause often, breathe deeply, and stay a little laid back.